Well, good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Michael B. Ross, and I would like to welcome you to the HBK High Performance Podcast. I hope the sun is shining, the birds are chirping in your life. I hope all your dreams are coming true. Before we get started today, as I always like to mention, if you hear one good thought, one good phrase, one good quote, or one good idea from this podcast, I would like to ask you to put that thought, phrase, idea, or quote into absolute immediate action. It is the application of our education that makes the biggest difference in our world, and I don't want you or anyone else to be a person that lives with regret. I heard this said one time by a mentor of mine named Jim Rohn. He said that discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs a ton. I know that's been true in my life. The things that I've disciplined myself in, the things I've taken action on, I don't look back with regret. Even if it wasn't a wild success, I don't look back and think if I would have, I should have, I could have. I look back and say, I did it. I took action when it mattered. I also have times that I look back with regret. Things that I could have taken action on that I didn't. And that is a regret that weighs a ton. Make sure you take action. You're going to get a lot of good ideas today from this podcast. And with that said, today I'm interviewing a very good friend of mine. He is a partner in charge at HBK in the Pittsburgh office. He runs a very, very great ship there. He is a man that focuses on culture, and he is a great person all around. He is a father, he's a husband, and a great leader. I'd like to welcome my friend, Jeremy Hartzell. Jeremy, I am so grateful for you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Jeremy, in all this time, you know, you've been partner in charge at HBK in the Pittsburgh offices. Tell us how it happened, you know, why it happened, and some of the unconventional methods of how it happened, because I think the story is so cool. And it's also a testament that you just have to keep pushing forward and putting yourselves in the right positions to succeed. So, Jeremy, how did you become partner in charge at HBK Pittsburgh?
So it's actually a pretty interesting story. And it really started when I started my career. I started my career at a Big Four accounting firm and spent 13 years there really learning the nuts and bolts. And even then realizing that someday, you know, I wanted to run an accounting practice. And an HR director there at one point who I was good friends with actually said to me, she's like, I'm going to write this down on a little piece of paper and put it in my desk here, because I don't think it's going to be here, but someday, somewhere, you're going to be an amazing leader of an accounting firm. So I got to the point where I needed to make some decisions there and decided to leave and look for some new opportunities, and eventually wound up at HBK, where I knew I could actually make a difference as a partner and an owner in the company and have day-to-day influence on my people and my team and my clients. So I came here actually to be the successor to one of our high-level partners, Ed Gauntz, who has a $2 million practice in the high net worth area. I joined HBK to be his successor. And about 2 years into the process, I was at the point where I was going to be up for partner, and it was a late June day, and we got this email from our COO saying it was time for goals to be done, and I hadn't had any discussions yet, so I didn't know if I should be doing goals as a senior manager or a partner, and nobody had talked to me, so I decided to go down and visit our current partner in charge and say, hey, what's going on? You know, what goals, principal, senior manager, where are we? And he said, close the door and have a seat, and I sat down, and about 2 minutes into the conversation, he goes, so what if we just offered you my job? And I got to say, it's probably the first time in my professional life where I actually had nothing to say. I truly was not expecting this conversation at all. And I just said, I was silent. And then I think I said, your job as in partner in charge? And he's like, yeah, you know, what if we just made you in charge of the office? And so I was a non-equity partner, going to become a non-equity partner. That became clear. And at the same time, he was offering to make me the partner in charge of the office. And that had never been done at HBK. So there had never been a non-equity owner that was also going to be in charge of an office. So we spent probably the next 2.5 months in this whole on again, off again, you know, what's going on, and the current partners of the Pittsburgh office having discussions and debate as to what this would mean, and are they behind it? And I made a road trip one day up to Meadville, Pennsylvania, where Chris Allegretti, our CEO, sits, and I spent a few hours with Chris and talked to him because the pick role is appointed by the CEO. So I wanted to understand from Chris, what does this mean? And, I'm like, I'm not an owner yet, but I'm going to be in charge of the office. So I'm going to have people who are older than me, that have been working here longer than me, that own part of the firm, reporting to me. So how's that going to work? If I got to have all the tools that somebody else would have in this role for me to be successful, yet I'm really not in a position to have all those tools. So Chris and I had a good conversation. He said, look, if you're in charge of the office, you're going to have all the same abilities as anybody else that's in charge of the office. And the team is behind you, and your partners believe that you're the right guy for this job, and we'll make it happen. So, I thought about it, and I came home and I had a conversation with my wife, and I said, look, this is a completely different role, and it's going to mean more time and more being in the office. And, if the alarm goes off at 3 a.m, I might have to go to the office at 3 a.m. Or if our software isn't working at midnight, I'm going to have to be online at midnight trying to figure out what's going on and how to help my team out. But we knew it was kind of a role that I had always looked forward to having. And, after having individual meetings with all the partners in Pittsburgh to make sure that indeed they were on board with this, and our one other young partner meeting with him and just saying, hey, I don't want to leapfrog you. Do you want this role? And he said, no, I do not want the role. You take it, please. So, had the meetings with all of them. They were all behind me. Called Chris again and said, as long as you're confirming, that when I need something, and if I have an issue, I'm going to call you and say, look, you made this promise to me. I need you to have my back because this isn't here. I'm in. And he said, yeah, absolutely. We think you're the right guy for the job. One of the things that they were thinking about in the role that I learned afterwards is that I am at that age where I was able to bridge the gap, if you will, between our older partners who have been here a really long time and our younger partners who are younger than I am, as well as our senior managers and managers who, generationally, you got two different generations there. And I'm one of the few people in our firm at that middle group that's somewhere between the older and the younger group. So I was able to sort of bridge that gap. And it was also part of a planned transition where Jeffrey Newsy, who was our partner in charge, was going to be at the firm for a few more years. So he was available to help me figure out what I was doing and maneuver my way through firm politics. And so it was a great summer. It was very interesting. A lot of closed door meetings. No one in our office knew what was going on. So they all just kept saying, why is this door always closed? Like, this is the go-to guy that we've always went to for our questions and our problems and culture issues and things like that. And now we can't get to see him. He's always in meetings, and no one really knew what was going on. And finally in September we got it announced, and 4 years later, I think it is now, and things have been going good. So it's been a great ride, and Chris kept his promises, and I only had to call him once. The partner group tried one time to do something, and they said, you're not an owner, you can't be a part of it. And I said, want to bet? Yeah. And we had a conversation, and they were like, I said, you all can decide to let me back into this meeting and this discussion, or I will call Chris and I will be back inside this meeting and this discussion. And it's going to happen. So I kind of called the ace card out, and it was the only time I ever had to use it. And they quickly agreed that, yeah, we probably should have never tried to do this without you anyways. And, I'm fortunate to work with a great partner group in Pittsburgh and across the entire firm, and have a lot of other people, at my level that I can communicate with and share thoughts and ideas and really strategize to take HBK to the next level.
I think that story, Jeremy, is remarkable because I think it goes in line with the idea of preparation, always being prepared to take on a leadership role when called. You went from being a senior manager to partner in charge all in the same day. And it's a remarkable story, but it's also a testament that you have been prepared and you put yourself in the right position to succeed over and over and over again. Now, I know you, and I know you're a student of leadership, and you practice what you learn. So I want to ask you to put on your expert leadership hat on for a second and tell us what you believe what's the qualities or characteristics of a great leader? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that question.
Sure. So, the first and most important thing is understanding the group of people that you've been tasked to lead and creating a bond with them and an atmosphere where they want to follow you and that they're going to have your back no matter what, because they know that in turn you have their back. Mm-hmm. So it's empathy is extremely important. You've got to understand the goals and objectives of your organization, understand the team that you have supporting you, and don't ever ask somebody else to do something you wouldn't do. I think that's a key, is never feel like you're above the rest of your team, because you're not. My job is to make sure our team functions right at all levels and that everything gets done. So if that means I take out the garbage one day, then I take out the garbage. Like if it means I wipe up a spill or clean the glass on the front door because our receptionist is busy doing other things that's more important at that point, then that's what I do. We all function as a team, and sometimes we do things that are above our level, and sometimes we do things that are below our level. But the title, frankly, doesn't matter. When I interviewed here, they asked me what title I needed. I'm like, honestly, it doesn't matter. Here's what I want to do, and I need to be able to do these things, but you can give me any title you want. So you have to really understand your team, know what motivates them, what makes them tick, what makes them excited, what gets them out of bed in the morning, challenge them with new things every day, make sure they're constantly learning and that they're there. Make sure they understand that you are there to support them and that they have access to you anytime. So I always, whenever I meet with all the new hires in Pittsburgh, and one of the things I always tell them is I said, I would love to be able to tell you I have an open door. And unfortunately, my door is not always literally open, but I will tell you that I'm always available to you. And what that means is set up a meeting with me, call me, text me, email me. And my team will tell you that if they email me at 11 o'clock at night, they're going to get a response from me if it's something that's urgent. And they know that they can reach me whether or not I'm in the office. If it's something that matters to them, I'm going to be responsive to them. And I think that that's really appreciated by them because, I can't be there all the time. I've got other responsibilities. Like I said, I'm a father and a dad and a husband. And, I've got 3 young kids that I want to be at their events, and I don't miss their sporting events. But on the other hand, my team knows that if I'm on the softball field and they got a problem, they're going to call me and I'm going to resolve it remotely. And they're perfectly fine with that because in the same breath, I encourage all of them to go and attend their kids' events and make sure they're not missing family items for their team, their people. And we build ourselves a culture that says family is going to be as important as work, and we're going to balance the two in the right way and make sure that our goals and objectives are matching, and what we're doing at work is helping us be successful at home, and what we're doing at home is helping us be successful at work.
That is such a great lesson. That's a tough one, Jeremy. That hasn't been real balanced. Everyone likes to talk about work-life balance, but I like what you said is, you got to keep on top of it. You got to keep talking about it. And there are times where, goodness gracious, you got to give 80, 90 hours a week to work. It's just part of, but then at the same time, you got to balance it out with your family, find a way to give that quality time in those moments when you can. That's a really tough challenge. And there is no perfect algorithm, to that.
No. But one of the things I've learned is it's about communication, and it's about communication in both places. So, it's very important, as I told you in the first part of this, that when I was taking on this new role, my wife and I sat down and had a discussion about, what does this role mean? What does it mean to me professionally? And what does it mean to our family financially? And what does it mean in terms of a time commitment? And, one of the things that's very important to our family is being involved with charitable events and being a part of the community. And, I said to my wife, I'm like, this will give us yet another platform to really move forward in some of the things that we like to do in the community, because we both grew up in lower middle class families, and we believe it's extremely important as successful people that we are today to give back to the community. And, we're able to do that at a different level in this role with the support of the firm and the people around us. And again, encouraging all the people who work in our office to do that. So when young people meet with me and say, I'm struggling with this work-life balance thing, really what I talk to them about is, have you talked to your spouse? Have you talked to your kids? Do they understand why you do what you do? My kids, so I was in Disney last year, and I was getting into an Uber, and all of a sudden a guy tapped me on my shoulder and was like, Jeremy. And my kids were just like, what? And then how is it somebody everywhere we go? So we stopped, and I had probably a 10-minute conversation with this guy, and we got in the car, and my kids were like, how do you know somebody? And I said, my job is relationships. So what you got to understand is every time we get stopped somewhere and I spend 5 or 10 minutes talking to that guy, that's how we pay to go to Disney. And they've now caught on to the fact that, when dad takes a phone call or stops to talk with the person at Target or Kohl's, now we get it. This is what dad does, so we can do the things we as a family want to do. And, we make it, my kids come in and out of our office. Everybody at the office knows who my kids are. They run in and out of the office. Our spouses do. We encourage kids and parents to come to the office. We take time. We make sure at college midterms and finals, we send gift cards to our students that are out somewhere studying and say, hey, have a study break on us. Because one of the lessons I learned is if you can make the family feel connected to where mom or dad works and make them think that, wow, that's a really good place to work, it'll be much harder for mom or dad to ever leave that place. Because if your kids love where you work, you don't want to go home one day and tell your kids you're not working there anymore.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a great outside the box concept. And, when you look at productivity, if you can turn on passion for people, they're on average 28% more productive per day. That's a study according to Deloitte. And here's the thing, it's why do we leave our houses? If you think about it from an existential standpoint, we leave our house to provide resources for our family to thrive, survive, and that's to keep that in mind and to keep the balance between family and work is excellent. And I love how you've provided that. That's something that is really important to me. I know it's important to you. And I think every business owner, business leader needs to hear this and try to find that balance if they haven't currently.
When I was a young professional, I had a personal moment in my life right as I was getting ready to come to start my profession, literally the summer before I was going to start full time. About 3 weeks before the bar exam, my mom passed away. And a partner from the accounting firm I was working at called me, and it was a person who, frankly, I always thought of as just, wow, she's extremely professional, but she's a bulldog, she's all about work. This is what it is. You got to go. And she called me. She's like, Jeremy, I just wanted to call and let you know the partner group met. And back then, if you didn't pass the bar exam on the first try, you were out. That was kind of how it worked back in the day. So she called and she just said, I want you to know that we don't care if you take the exam. We don't care if you pass the exam. We understand what's going on in your life, and we want you to understand that's what's most important. Wow. So I learned that lesson early on, and I remember thinking back to that often as I'm dealing with people, and remembering the impact that had on my life and on my thoughts as a professional at that point, to say, wow, they actually care about me as a person and not just me as an employee. And I've taken that lesson. I use that every day in what I'm doing to make sure, obviously we've got a business to run, and we got to make sure it operates, and we got to make money, and we got to do all those things so that we can keep people employed and keep them making good money and do all those things that we want to do. But the way we do that is to build a team that, works well synergistically together and has the same set of values. And when we do that, then we all operate, because when one of us is down, everybody else wants to lift that person up. We care about each other as people, and we're there. And as soon as we know somebody's got a problem, everybody steps in, they happily support it, and they get the job done so that person can deal with what they need to deal with at that point in time, knowing that my time will come sometime down the road.
That's such a sustainable model. I love that. And, again, people spend a third of their waking hours in their profession, and to provide an environment where they're going to feel safe and they feel like their personal life matters, they're going to be much better and have more energy for their professional life. And that is what you said. People will want to contribute to causes bigger than themselves. So that's so great. On that note, Jeremy, I know something you and I talk about is accountability. Everyone likes talking about accountability in boardrooms with other leaders, and then it comes down to actually doing it. And there's such a fine balance. I think you're really good at this, and that's why I wanted you to speak on this. How do you hold people accountable while still maintaining a great relationship with them?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Mike, and it's one that I work on every day and try to instill in the leaders who work with me the importance of it. And it's a couple of things. One is you have to realize what your role is. At every level within the organization, you have a different role, and part of that is I want all of my people to like each other, to work with each other well, to have mutual respect and admiration for each other. I want you to always want to have the job of the person above you, frankly, because you look up to them and you say, wow, that's what I want to do someday. That also means we have to understand we're generally not, friends with people. Our job is to be a work capacity, and we got to be willing to step in and do the tough things sometimes. And if the person respects you because you built the right relationship with them, they don't want you to come to them and have the hard conversation. And in fact, when you start that conversation, they immediately understand, and oftentimes they'll even stop you and they'll say, I know, I messed up. I got to do this better. Let's figure it out together. So it's a couple things. You got to make sure you're always telling them when they're doing the right things and say thank you a lot. When somebody goes out of their way, make sure that you recognize that they've went out of their way and that you tell them how much you appreciate that, because they don't want to only hear the negative. So if all they hear from you is what they've done wrong, they're going to start to discount what you talk about. They're going to start to plug their ears and say, I can't listen. Every time Jeremy talks, it's negative, and I don't want to hear it because I can't be all bad. If I was all bad, I wouldn't still be here. So we don't hire people that are all bad. We hire people that need to learn from mistakes, because frankly, that's how we all learn. And we all still make mistakes, and we learn every day from them. So we balance the right amount of praise with constructive criticism. We make sure the constructive criticism is done right. We always do it in private. We don't publicly criticize somebody. We use varying degrees of it depending on how severe the issue is, and we make sure that we document it when we have to document it. And I will tell you, almost every time I've ever had to document somebody's performance issue, when I've sent it to them and asked if they had any comments, they say, nope, I completely get it, and I'm sorry, and we're not going to have this issue again. Because they know it's coming and they know why, because we've had the conversation and the expectations were clear. So you have to set clear expectations for your team too. Make sure they know what it is they need to do and when they need to do it and how they need to do it. And be consistent. Be consistent with your entire team. You can't have favorites. You can't, Johnny can't be your go-to person on everything. And if everybody sees that Johnny gets away with murder, that doesn't work. So you got to, everybody on the team gets treated the same way, and everybody knows that their goal is to become a principal, hopefully. And that's kind of what you do. And you feel it out as it goes. And for each person, it's somewhat different. So the longer somebody's worked with you, you really start to understand what makes them work. What are their motivators? What are the things that you can do to get them back on track when they're not? Yeah. I can tell from just looking at some of my team members when they're having a bad day, frankly. I don't need to do any more than walk past them in the hall, and I know, wow, so-and-so is not having a good day. And then I'll try to stop by later on just to say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Do you need to talk? If you need something, let me know. But on the same side, if there's an issue that day, we're still going to have that conversation and figure that out together.
Yeah, and I think that's the mark of a great culture. And one thing you said, Jeremy, that I think everyone needs to keep in mind is expectations. People want to know, where are we heading? What is expected of me? How do I contribute? Show me how I contribute. Stanford did a study. They showed that 1 out of 5 people have proper critical thinking skills. You'll hear leaders that scoff at that. Oh, that sucks. No, that's just the way it is. Don't fight it. Work with it. Clear expectations, I think, are one of the most important things. But it's hard to sit down and take the time to say, here's what I expect from each team member. Deliver those expectations. Make sure that they reciprocate and they understand and they can give you feedback on that. That is, to me, what I've seen a lot in coaching, consulting, leadership, and cultures throughout the years is always shortchanged when it comes to the team. What's something that you do that's very practical with expectations that a leader might be able to take?
So I think what's important is that you set the expectations broadly for your entire team, but very specifically for those that report directly to you. And then you in turn empower that group of people to set the expectations for those that work for them. And you do that kind of down the chain. So, I set broad-based expectations for the entire office in Pittsburgh at the beginning of every fiscal year and talk about our goals and where we're going and what we're going to do as an office and how we're going to accomplish it. And then I work very specifically with my senior managers and senior directors and my managers who report up directly to me on very specific goals for each of them. And then I say, okay, you've got your goals. Figure out what the people that report to you need to do to make you successful so that you can meet your goals, so that in turn I can meet the office-wide goals that I have to report out to our executive committee. So I can't meet with every single person in the office with a team of, 40 plus 50 people. I can't meet with every one of them and spend hours on goal setting. I would love nothing more than to do that. If I could spend my entire day doing that, it would be awesome. I would be thrilled. I do take time to meet with all of my team members on a regular basis. I'm a huge fan of breakfast. So my team will tell you I am a big breakfast meeting person. And you could get an email from me at 10 o'clock at night that says, hey, you got time for breakfast tomorrow morning by chance? And it's just a whim that I'm checking to see if you want to get together and do nothing other than catch up. And, I meet with groups of people sometimes, especially right now during this whole quarantine thing. We've got to stay in front of our team somehow. So I've been trying to have breakfast meetings with 3 or 4 people at a time to just say, hey, look, there's no agenda to this meeting. I've got nothing planned. I just want to say hi. I want to see how you're doing. Is there anything you need from me? Is there anything you guys want to talk about? And the conversation kind of flows from there. Expectations, set them for your direct reports, and then let those people set the expectations for the folks that report to them. Don't try to micromanage the process.
That's awesome. I hope everyone's listening to this. This is Jeremy Hartzell. He's a pick at HBK Pittsburgh. He's given us some great information today. I hope if you're sitting down somewhere, you're able to take notes. Don't do it while you're driving, but maybe re-listen to this and take some notes. And remember, take absolute immediate action. Next question I want to ask you, Jeremy, is on culture itself. I know you're a big culture aficionado, and you and I talk about this stuff a lot again. How important is culture to growth? Because I think sometimes, you'll hear this, especially me as a consultant, a trainer, and a coach, you'll hear people, oh, that sounds like fluff. That's all fluffy, touchy-feely stuff. They don't want to go there. And I quickly let people know that no, culture is hard skills. It's some of the hardest skills you have to master as a leader. How important is it to growth?
In our business at HBK, where we're a consulting firm, I think it's vital because, frankly, our best asset is our people. Fixed assets are meaningless to us. We all have computers and iPhones, but if we don't have the right team, it doesn't matter. So building a culture that supports our team and makes them want to be at HBK, like you said, we all wake up in the morning and we'd say, do I want to go to work today? I want my people to jump out of bed and say, yeah, I want to go to work today. And this, why? Because I love what I do every day. I get to do exciting things with people that are like-minded. And I do it with a group of people that value the same things that I do and that work together to support the overall view and our office feel and vibe. And people in our office know when they walk in to tell me that something is bad has happened in their life and they need to go because, something's wrong with their kids, they know the immediate response is going to be, go do what you need to do and tell me what we need to do to cover for you in the office. Like that's part of our culture is we've built this culture where family will always come first. You got to take care of what's at home, and we get that. And then we've also built this culture that says, okay, when somebody has to leave, the rest of us are going to step in and fill the gap. Mm-hmm. We've also built an important part of our culture in Pittsburgh is community service and giving back to the community in which we serve. We have HBK Cares, which works as an initiative to do, pre-coronavirus, a lot of hands-on, quarterly hands-on events where we went out into the community and sat down and volunteered, or we would do a day-wide event and the whole office would volunteer with things. Right now, a lot of it is fundraising and donating money and supplies to organizations that are serving our community. So that's an important part of our culture in Pittsburgh. Having a warm, welcoming atmosphere, excuse me, where the team, appreciates what they're walking into, a safe environment where they feel, they can talk about what's going on and that they're worried about something, they can bring it to leadership and say, here's what I'm concerned about. How do we fix this? Knowing at the end of the day that we all care about our team. And we put our team first, because if I put my team first and my team is getting what they need, they will in turn put my clients first. And that will be how we build success. You got to understand what your asset is. And for me, my asset is my people. So making sure our culture works for our team and that they are one united team is what will make us successful.
Yeah. And it's amazing when you look at the numbers in productivity and retention, you look at revenue growth, you look at profitability, how much of that ties back to culture and how much of that ties back to making sure that people feel safe and they're in an environment where they can thrive without fear that if they try something new, they're going to get slammed, And that's why a lot of people don't take risks because they're afraid of consequence of failing. People are afraid of disappointing the people who they look up to in the organization. If you give them if you say, I'm going to be disappointed if you don't try, then it's much different than, hey, I'm going to be disappointed if you fail. So,
right. So one of the things I've learned is if you can build a culture where the people that work for you would be terrified to walk into your office and tell you they're quitting because they respect you so much and they enjoy working for you so much that they want to be a part of your team. If you can keep that culture alive where they always want to work for you and they would literally have to be at home thinking, God, I just can't imagine walking into his office today to say I'm quitting. They're not going to do it. You don't want to walk in and disappoint somebody who you respect. And when you get to the point where you can honestly just walk into somebody's office and say, I'm leaving, and you don't care anymore, that's when the problem exists. So we want to create that culture where our team says, wow, I can't imagine walking into Jeremy's office and saying I'm leaving, because not only would I be disappointing him, but I would be disappointing everybody else here that I work with. And, I just can't do that. No, I mean, circumstances happen. I get it. We're an accounting firm. Not everybody's going to work here for their entire career. We're realistic. We understand that, everybody has their own thing, and we're supportive of that. And that's another part of our culture, frankly, is the way we, part ways with people is that we understand you never know when they're going to come back, or they're going to be a part of your future, or they're going to be something that you're going to work with again in some way, shape, or form, and never burn a bridge. We work in a small world, and people learn it quickly. And you will be surprised how many times you're going to call somebody that you've worked with in your past and need a favor or want to talk to them or network with them. And keeping those relationships alive is key to building a long-term success.
Yeah, that is such a good point. People say, you should never say never, because you never know when something comes back around. And if you treat people with respect, dignity, and honor, you never burn a bridge. I love that. Jeremy, what would you tell a leader right now? Because I know there's probably a few people listening to this. And then oftentimes I get questions, what do I do to get my team to work better together? And what can I do to change the way the environment is? So if a leader comes and let's say they're sitting with us right now and they say, I'm struggling with getting my team to work together. What's a piece of advice you could give them today that could maybe spark some change for them?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think the big one is to just sit down and have a conversation with the team. Pull the whole team together, actually, and say, look, something's not working right now. And it's our job as a team to figure out what that something is. And frankly, we're not going to leave this room until we resolve it. So we'll order in lunch or dinner or whatever we need to. And we're going to sit here, and I've got some thoughts, and I'm going to put out, some questions. I'm not going to give you solutions, because my job, frankly, as the leader is not to always have all the solutions. My job is to spark the conversation and give you guys the ability to figure out the solutions. So I want you, the team, tell me what we can do differently. What are the roadblocks? And then as that meeting progresses, maybe stop at some point and break into a couple smaller groups, and then have sub meetings with the smaller teams and say, okay, here's what I'm hearing from your group, and this is what I think maybe you're saying. Am I right? And how do we resolve that? Get all those thoughts together, then come back together as a group and lay out, okay, here's the vision we all as a team just agreed to. Put it on paper and say, this is what I think we need to do. And if we're all in agreement and we all now say, yep, this is our vision and we're going to work together to make it happen, then we're going to be good. So it's have the conversation. Don't be afraid to call the team together and say, this isn't working and we need to figure out why. Yeah. And if you know it's one person, frankly, privately call that person first and say, look, you're dragging down the team right now, and these are the 3 reasons that you're dragging them down, and I don't know what the answer is. Yeah. Are you not happy here? Is there something going on at home? What can I do to help you? And assume you want to be a part of our team. How can we get this back on track? And by the way, if you don't want to be a part of our team, how can we work to make that happen? Because we'll fill the team with the right players, and attitude is 100% of it. You got to all be in it. Everybody needs to want to be a part of the team. And when somebody stops wanting to be a part of the team, you got to meet with them and figure out what happened. And sometimes it's frankly just as simple as, I'm having a crappy time at home right now.
Yep.
My kid's sick. My wife and I are not getting along. My dad's, in the hospital, whatever it is, something's going on at home that's now impacting them here. And 9 times out of 10, you learn in that conversation, that's what it was. And then you figure out a way to fix it. But know your people. Know your people. And when you do, it's amazing what can happen, because you'll know when something's wrong. And they will also get to a point where they're willing to trust you and tell you what it is that's wrong. In my role, I know a lot of things about a lot of different people in our office, in our firm, that are very private to them personally, and where I'm one of the few people outside of the family, and in some cases, the only person that's not a part of their family that knows what's going on. And I will tell you, I don't share that information with pretty much anyone. Oftentimes, frankly, to the disconcert of some of my partners who say, well, why aren't you telling me what's going on? You don't really need to know. I know what's going on, and I've approved what's happening, and I'll tell you enough to let you deal with it. But otherwise, you don't need to know all the details. Yeah. They have privacy rights too. And I think when people know that's how we deal with it, they gain a lot of respect for that, and they're willing to open up and share a lot more with us.
That's fantastic. I do think that that's so important, to get the team together, just have candid conversations. In a great culture, you should be able to say what is, and people should be able to feel safe enough to handle the conversation. Just like a family, if something's not going right, if someone leaves a mess on the table, you might bring everyone together and go, who made this mess? And you say, well, clean it up. It's your responsibility to clean it up. It's not some formal, we got to set up 5 meetings in order to get to the bottom of this. No, it's just, let's open up a conversation. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's rectify the problem. Let's move forward. We got a purpose for being here. Let's make sure we stay in line with that. But things aren't right. Let's take inventory, figure it out, and move on.
As the leader, you have to be willing to also look at yourself and realize when you've made the mistake, and be willing to say, look, guys, I'm not always going to get it right. I try my best, and I make hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions in a week. And am I going to get some of them wrong? Yeah, I'm human. So come and talk to me. And if I get it wrong, I'll be the first to admit, hey, that's on me. Sorry. my bad, and let's get it fixed, and we will learn from it, and I won't make the same mistake twice. So you got to be willing to take the criticism yourself in the leadership role and understand that you're going to get a lot of darts thrown at you. There's going to be some people that are just throwing darts to throw darts, and you got to just let those roll off your back and say, you know what, fine. If that's what you need to do to be happy and to keep it, okay, good. But if you throw a poison dart at me, understand that I'm going to get involved in the game, and I've got more weapons at my disposal usually than you do in yours. So be a part of the team. And as long as you're all in it together, it works. But also know when there's a problem, and know when you've got somebody in the team that just isn't working, and take the actions you need to do to correct that and move on.
Yep. That's fantastic. It's like that old philosopher. I can't remember his name. I think it's anonymous. Haters gonna hate. Sometimes you just gotta let them hate, and you move on. Which I think this leads into the last question. What would you tell a young leader? There's a lot of young aspiring leaders right now who want to be great. We're in this culture of acceleration because of technology. And, you can't rush great leadership. You really can't. What's one piece of advice you would give younger leaders who are aspiring to be great leaders one day? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to look at everybody that is above you within your organization and others. Find 2 or 3 people who you aspire to be like, and try to get them to be your mentors, and learn all of the good things that each one of them does and all of the bad things that you think each one of them does, and take all those good things from all 3 different leaders and meld them together to turn yourself into the leader that you're going to be, and take all the bad things from all 3 of those leaders and pull those back and say, these are the things I'm not going to do. Yeah. In my career, I've been fortunate enough to work with some amazing people, both before and during my time at HBK. And that's what I've done is I've looked at people who I really respect and who I thought, wow, I want to be like them someday. And I still do this today. While I'm a pick here at HBK, it's not my last role that I want to have in life or in the firm or anywhere else. So I'm still looking at people who have other roles and opportunities and saying, this is what I think they're doing right, and this is what I would do different. And I constantly keep that in the back of my head in some cases, and in some cases on an actual list. So that when the time comes and when I get the opportunity, and as you said, when the leadership calls and says, Jeremy, you're in. It's no different than the coach that says, okay, we're going to switch up the pitcher and it's time for the left-handed guy, and they tap you on the arm and go time. You never know when that moment's going to come, frankly, as a leader. If we go back to the beginning, I had no idea when I walked into Jeff's office that day that I was going to be asked to lead this office and be given this great opportunity that I'd been given. And I'm certain that when the next opportunity comes, the same will be true. So look to those that lead now. Learn what they're doing. Read a lot. Look for good leadership books. There's tons of them out there. Find ones that you're interested in. Read avidly. Learn about your profession. And always listen. Listen to everybody at every level and learn from everybody. Take it all in and become your own leader. Create your philosophy and your vision and your style for leadership, because you're not going to be able to create the Jeremy Hartzell style of leadership or whatever else it is. You're going to create the you style, and that's going to be what takes you to the top.
Jeremy Hartzell, everyone. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining us. I hope that you all have taken notes if you're in a place where you can take notes, or you're taking mental notes and you're getting ready to implement some of the things that he talked about today. I know Jeremy is a man of action. He is a man of careful thought, and he's a man of great empathy for his team. So he is one that you can look up to. Jeremy, if someone's listening to this and they'd like to follow up with you on the information that you shared, what's a way that they can reach out, connect with you? I do recommend that they reach out on LinkedIn, of course, which is a great professional platform. Is there any other way that people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm an avid user of LinkedIn. For those of you that follow me, you know that I post some quick thoughts on a regular basis. So if you don't, please follow me on LinkedIn, Jeremy Hartzell, Hartzell. Also via email, jhartzell, Hartzell @hbkcpa.com. And I'm happy to get back to you. Always look forward to the opportunity to meet with new people and connect in new ways and help young people that are looking for opportunities to grow.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much. And for those of you listening, make sure you take absolute immediate action on the ideas that compelled you. And I cannot wait to talk to you next time on the HBK High Performance Podcast.